October 2015. A cold wind was blowing across Washington. Inside the headquarters of the Central Intelligence Agency, one of the most powerful men in the free world, John Brennan, director of the CIA, was about to receive a phone call. He didn't know it yet, but in the next few minutes, he would lose control of everything. Hello, John, a teenage voice, mocking, flat, emotionless. Who is this? Brennan demanded. You're such a D. The voice continued. We want $5 trillion. Or maybe just for you to stop bombing the Middle East. Brennan froze. This was not an idle prank. It wasn't a hoax. It was the first shot in a digital rebellion that would rattle the most secretive agencies on Earth, and it wasn't coming from Moscow. Or Beijing. It was coming from a 15-year-old boy in a bedroom in the English Midlands. He called himself Cracka. What followed was one of the most humiliating breaches in American intelligence history, not by enemy spies, not by professional cyber units, but by a ragtag group of teenagers. They called themselves Crackas With Attitude. They didn't just hack emails. They didn't just leak documents. They targeted the men who built the surveillance state, turned their own tools against them, and made them sweat. What drives a teenager to declare war on the CIA? How did they pull off something that foreign intelligence agencies could only dream of? And more importantly, what does it say about our surveillance world when the ones who tear it down are our kids? Let us return to the beginning. 2008. Virginia. The housing is quiet. The streets are middle class. The boy is average, at least that's how his teachers would describe him. Online, he calls himself Default. He plays video games. He likes soccer. He fights with his dad, who works for the government, and one day, he cheats in a game. It starts with a simple code, a shortcut, a way to win unfairly, but cheating becomes programming. Programming becomes understanding. Understanding becomes control. Default discovered hacking, and in 2008, hacking means anonymous. It's the golden age of online anarchy. Anonymous was everywhere. Hacking Scientology, exposing secrets, flooding the internet with memes and chaos, and sometimes justice. Default gets into the private chats. He's watching in real time as anonymous attacks institutions, governments, corporations. To a teenage mind searching for meaning, it's intoxicating. But then, the cracks show, feds infiltrate the chat rooms, paranoia spreads, people get doxxed, others get arrested, the glory days sour into suspicion and betrayal. Anonymous, once the vanguard of digital rebellion, begins to feel lame, so Default drifts to smaller, more focused hacker crews. One of them calls itself a non-sec. They're more technical, more targeted, and just like Anonymous, sometimes they're political, but other times it's just for the laws. Through a non-sec, Default learns how to control botnets, massive webs of hijacked computers. You can use them to infect others, or to crash servers, or to poke around. One day, Default finds himself inside the finance system of a Canadian medical school, Windsor University. He's looking at a list of students who owe nearly $9 million in unpaid tuition. At the bottom of the screen, a button, delete all, hesitates. He clicks. He erases every record of every student debt on that server, just like that. Years of obligation. Gone. No ransom. No warning. Just a kid with a keyboard. To some, This was crime. To default, it was justice. Later, he would explain some of those students owed 70,000, some over 100,000. Debt like that didn't just go away. It followed you. It defined you. He didn't steal. He didn't sell the data. He simply removed the chains. I just deleted everything. He said, shredded it, sent it to Dev Null. In tech speak, that means erased beyond recovery. But even if the university had backups, even if the debts were reinstated later, that moment mattered because for the first time, default had crossed the line between mischievous curiosity and ideological warfare. Soon, there was no going back. 2014. Denmark. In the quiet corners of the internet, a grotesque secret began to spread. Bestiality, the sexual abuse of animals, was still legal in Denmark. While most of Europe had banned it, Denmark had become an unlikely haven for animal sex tourism. Dog brothels, hidden farms, unspeakable crimes. Activists have fought for years to stop it, petitions, protests, documentaries, but the world didn't listen. Default had a dog. He imagined if that were his pet. He imagined the terror, and he snapped. Using the skills he'd honed in the shadows, Default now aligned with a new band of hackers attacked. They took down the official website of the Danish government. They posted messages. Did you know your government allows bestiality? They hit other targets. 2 private forums, hosting sites, underground networks. They exposed images. They named names. The world took notice. Within a year, under international pressure, Denmark banned bestiality. It wasn't just trolling anymore. This was impact. This was power. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, another teenage fuse was about to light. England, 2015. In a housing estate in the West Midlands, 15-year-old Crackas was furious. Furious at surveillance. Furious at foreign policy. Furious at Gaza. He saw the suffering. He blamed the United States. While other kids played Xbox, Crackas read leaked documents. While others got high, Crackas got online. Though, truth be told, it did the both. And one day, he decided to act. He founded a group, Crackas With Attitude, a digital gang of teenage revolutionaries driven by equal parts justice, shaush, and weed. Their mission, to expose the rot inside the American security state, to strike at the heart of the monster. The CIA, Crackas' first target. James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence. It took him one Google search to find Clapper's home phone number, one fake tech support call to reroute that line directly to the Free Palestine movement. Then came the emails. Then came the leak. That caught Default's attention. He messaged Crackas. They bonded. They teamed up. A new digital alliance was born, ruthless, ideological, and absurdly young. Their final boss, John Brennan, head of the CIA, top of the intelligence pyramid, the architect of drone warfare, the man who knew everything, but not what was coming. Crackas started with Brennan's Verizon account. He pretended to be a technician. He made up an employee ID on the spot. It worked. Support gave him Brennan's account number, PIN, and personal email. From there, it was easy. He reset the password, he read the inbox, and he found the gold mine: sensitive files, personal notes, and Brennan's private phone number. They started calling over and over, relentlessly. telling him, "You're a piece of shit. You're the problem. You think you're untouchable." Brennan went into hiding. Security was upgraded. Threat assessments were drafted. The CIA was rattled. Then, Cracker reached for the next level. With default encouragement, he contacted WikiLeaks, and Julian Assange responded. In October 2015, WikiLeaks published documents from Brennan's personal email account. Not gossip, not memes, classified data. Brennan's SF-86 application, a 47-page document required for top secret clearance, was now public. It listed his past drug use, his psychological evaluations, his criminal history, everything a spy shouldn't want the world to know. And there was more: internal White House memos, torture guidelines from the Bush years, memos on how to make interrogation techniques appear legal. The breach cost the U.S. government $1.5 million in damages and relocations. Operatives were moved, security procedures rewritten, but more than the material loss, it was the humiliation that stung. Kids, teenagers, had cracked the CIA open with Google searches, fake tech calls, and sheer audacity. Once Brennan's secrets were out, the dam had broken. And Crackas With Attitude didn't stop there. With Brennan compromised, other high-ranking officials became vulnerable. The group soon gained access to the account of Mark Giuliano, deputy director of the FBI. From there, the breaches escalated into a frenzy. They accessed the Joint Automated Booking System, a government database used to track every inmate in federal custody. They looked up fellow hackers like Jeremy Hammond, then imprisoned for hacking Stratfor. But they didn't stop at curiosity. They posted what they found. Then came the real blow: a database containing personal details of over 9,000 Department of Justice employees and 20,000 FBI agents. Names, phone numbers, email addresses, job titles, all dumped online. In an act of pure digital defiance, it wasn't just a prank anymore. It wasn't just politics. It was a declaration of total contempt for the idea that power could still hide behind a firewall, but actions have consequences. By now, the Crackers had poked the largest, angriest bear on earth, and they knew it. Default, ever the paranoid one, began obsessing over his operational security. He refused to log into his own Wi-Fi. Instead, he used a satellite dish to hijack a Dairy Queen's open network half a mile away. Every device he used was encrypted. Each shutdown required 30 minutes of decryption on boot. He kept his identity secret, even from those close to him, but for all his caution, he was still human. It unraveled with a whisper. It started with a girl, an ex-girlfriend of a friend. Default had asked, was it okay if he talked to her? The friend said yes, but feelings are complicated, and resentment has a long memory. One night, that same friend and Default were drinking together, chatting over Xbox Live. The television was on in the background. A news anchor said something about a cyber attack on the CIA, and in a moment of drunken pride, Default confessed, "Yeah, that was us." He thought it was harmless, a joke among friends, but somewhere a line had been crossed. Weeks later, the knock came. Actually, there was no knock. The FBI doesn't knock. They burst into Default's room with assault rifles drawn. His computer had just decrypted. The timing couldn't have been worse. Agents dragged him out. They flash cloned his hard drive. They seized his equipment, and then they took it. His hard drive, containing 1,000 Bitcoin. At today's valuation, that's over $40 million. Gone. Default collapsed. Mentally, physically, his mind blacked out from the shock. Across the Atlantic, Crackas' time also ran out. British authorities raided his home. His devices were taken. His online world dismantled. But Crackas was underage, just 15. The UK justice system, while not forgiving, was more lenient. He was sentenced to 2 years in a juvenile detention center. Notably, he became the first minor in the UK ever imprisoned for hacking. Today, it lives quietly. Working in cybersecurity, he no longer gives interviews, doesn't want fame, he wants a second chance. Default was not so lucky. Despite his lesser role, he faced a 5-year federal prison sentence in the United States. He was ordered to pay $145,000 in restitution. Worse still, due to national security restrictions, he spent much of his sentence in solitary confinement. He told the court, "I thought what I was doing was right, a form of political justice. But 2 years later, I realized I was completely wrong." But was he? Part 5, The Ghost of Snowden. Default story cannot be told without the shadow of Edward Snowden. In 2013, 2 years before the Crackas scandal, Snowden, then a contractor for the NSA, had blown the lid off the largest mass surveillance operation in human history. He fled to Hong Kong, then Russia, carrying evidence that the United States was spying on everyone. Phone records, emails, texts, even webcams. Snowden didn't hack. He leaked, and his leaks changed the world. To Crackas and Default, Snowden was more than a whistleblower. He was a prophet. When Snowden exposed James Clapper, the same man Crackas would later hack for lying under oath to Congress, it lit a fire inside them. Clapper had claimed, "We do not spy unlawfully on Americans." He lied. He knew he lied. And no one held him accountable. So the Crackas did it for him. They weren't just causing chaos. They were echoing Snowden's outrage in the only language they knew. But even Snowden paid a steep price. Despite international support, despite his moral clarity, he became a stateless man, hunted by his own government, stranded in exile. American intelligence officials fantasized publicly about assassinating him. What chance did a group of stoned, angry teenagers have? Part 6, Aftermath and the State of Surveillance. December 2023. 8 years after Crackas called Brennan, the Biden administration quietly renewed Section 702, the exact surveillance program Snowden had exposed. Section 702 allows U.S. intelligence to spy on anyone, including American citizens, without a warrant. It creates vast databases of private communications. The justification? National security. But by 2023, the FBI had misused the database over 278,000 times. The victims of these unlawful searches: political donors, protesters, ordinary citizens. No punishment, no accountability. The same forces Crackas and Default had tried to expose were still at work, stronger than ever. There's a haunting irony that hangs over this entire saga. The CIA, NSA, FBI, these are not incompetent institutions. They are the most advanced surveillance agencies in human history, with billion-dollar budgets, endless oversight committees, top-tier cybersecurity protocols. But their downfall, their moment of exposure, didn't come from a foreign power. It came from children, teenagers, operating from bedrooms. What Crackas With Attitude revealed wasn't just the fragility of data, They revealed the fragility of power because if a 15-year-old can impersonate a Verizon technician, what happens when a professional adversary, say, a state actor, decides to take aim? What else is out there? Hiding just behind the curtain. One of the most chilling realizations from this case is how trivial the hacks were. Crackas once rated the difficulty of hacking John Brennan's personal email 1 out of 10. Why? Because Brennan, the director of the CIA, used AOL. He had personal information scattered across the web, and he reused credentials. Crackas simply pieced it all together. Step by step, no magic, no zero-day exploit, just diligence and audacity. If this is how the intelligence elite protects itself, what hope do the rest of us have? The shadow industry. Behind this story lies another ghost, one less glamorous. More insidious, data brokers. While teenagers like Default and Crackas broke into systems to make a point, others do it for profit. There is an entire shadow economy surrounding your data, your habits, purchases, fears, health, finances. Companies track you, bundle your data, and sell it to the highest bidder. You never consented. You never see the transaction, but it happens every day. Hackers and brokers, two sides of the same blade. One driven by ideology, the other by commerce. Where are they now? Crackas disappeared into the fog of rehabilitation. The British system gave him a second chance. Today, he works in cybersecurity using the same tools, the same mind, but for defense instead of offense. He declined interviews. He's done with the spotlight. And perhaps that's wise. He had his say. In data dumps, in headlines, in cold early morning raids. Default's journey was longer. Prison changed him. Isolation changed him. But what stayed the same was the question, was it worth it? 5 years in prison. Bitcoin gone. Name forever tainted in government records. For what? A lesson? A message? Or a warning? Because that's what the Crackas ultimately became. Not heroes. Not villains, but a warning. They weren't trained spies. They weren't elite engineers. They were kids who read the news and decided that no one else was doing enough. They took Snowden's revelations not as a footnote, but as a challenge to act, to punish, to expose. The surveillance state remains, the databases grow, the oversight shrinks. Crackas is quiet. Default is out. Snowden still lives in exile. But the cycle never ends. Each new whistleblower risks it all. Each new breach reveals how little has changed. And each year, somewhere, a new teenager logs in and wonders what they'll find on the other side of the firewall. And so we end not with closure, but with a screen still glowing, a terminal still open, and a cursor blinking in silence, awaiting the next command. If these stories matter to you, if you believe that the past holds warnings for the future, subscribe to Legacy Files. We are here to tell what others forget and what some would rather erase.